Welcome back to another episode of War in Cali. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the SouthSide Varrio Grapes. The Varrio Grapes are a primarily Mexican gang, but as you see from this video, they got other races claiming as well. Varrio Grapes come from Watts by the way of Jordan projects and the surrounding blocks. The Varrio Grapes and the Grape Street Crips are very close allies and have always had a good relationship, even with the Varrio Grapes later becoming Serranos and the Grape Streets becoming Crips. They both sport purple to rep Grape Street and even have some of the same rivals. The Varrio Grapes beef with sets like Watts 13, Elm Street 13, Ivy Street Watts, Florencia 13, and the Fudgetown Mafia Crips, just to name a few. With that being said, let's get into some cases involving the Varrio Grapes. August 12, 2003. Alex and Juan were from Ivy Street Watts. They were in their car chasing after a car full of Varrio Grape members. None of the Varrio Grapes were strapped. The three Varrio Grapes were Hector, Diego, and George. Alex and Juan cuddled to the Grapes and aired the car out. Hector was the driver and he was mortally wounded. He crashed the whip. After the car crashed, Diego and George hopped out the car and both took off running. Alex pulled up on the car and Juan jumped out and tried to chase after Diego and George. But Juan was slow as fuck and couldn't catch up. He jumped back in the car with Alex and they dipped off. Alex and Juan were both later caught and they received life sentences. This next case involves Diego from Varrio Grape from the previous case. On December 2nd, 2004, K-Mob 13 members Nas, Neff, and Neff's younger brother Arturo were hanging out on 115th Street and Wilmington Avenue when a car pulled up and yelled out SouthSide Grape and dissed K-Mob. Nas yelled back and dissed the Grape Street, then the car drove off. The three K-Mob members were hot after this shit. They jumped in the whip and chased after the Varrio Grapes. Once they couldn't catch up, they decided to ride around looking for other Varrio Grapes. They didn't see anybody outside, so they decided to ride over Grape Street tags and put K-Mob over them. After they did this, they decided to drive back home. On their way back driving back, they noticed a car following them. It was the Varrio Grapes. The Varrio Grapes aired out the car and took the life of Neff and Arturo. Nas was lucky not to get hit. On December 6, 2004, a woman from Varrio Grape was arrested on an unrelated charge. You already know how this shit go. She told to get less time, and this bitch told police everything. The Varrio Grapes fucked up by letting people who wasn't there know what they did. Diego was sentenced to 25 to life for this shooting. On the night of April 15th, 2005, Jose drove his nephew Rich and his friends George and Alexis to a store which was on Ivy Street's turf. They all entered the store together, but Rich and George went on the outside and waited on everybody else to finish their transactions. A white truck soon drove up, and inside was about 6 people. The front passenger raised his window down and put his strap out the window and said, "Where y'all from on Varrio Grape?" Rich raised his hands in the air and said, "We're from nowhere, bro." All the passengers in the truck yelled out, "This is the Ivy Street." George and Rich tried to run inside the store, and the passengers started shooting. The car then soon sped off. Rich collapsed in the storefront entrance, being shot in the chest, hand, leg, and stomach, but he survived. The people in the white truck fucked up. Police were nearby and chased the white truck until it crashed into another police car. All 6 people in the car jumped out and attempted to run. The driver was the only one caught. The driver said he wasn't a banger. He said he just seen some friends from Grape Street and he was giving them a ride. He said on the way, they got into an altercation with a man and all he heard was shooting and he drove away in fear. George picked a man from Varrio Grape named Andreas as the shooter. Andreas was sentenced to 40 years to life. Around 3 a.m., July 6, 2005, Kleber from Varrio Grape was shot outside his home and lost his life. On the night of July 24th, 2005, Tavares was the baby daddy of a Varrio Grape member named Saggy's sister. He stopped at Saggy's house to drop his baby mama some food. As he walked out the house, he seen several Varrio Grape members. One man named was Berto, and the other was unknown to Tavares. Tavares seen him running up on a man named Octavio and putting straps to his head. Tavares tried to stop the situation, but Berto insisted Octavio knew who smoked Clever and was withholding information about the shooter. At this point, Saggy came outside to see what all the commotion was about, but once he seen what was going on, he went right back inside. Berto shot Octavio multiple times, taking his life. Then him and the other man fled. February of 2006, Tavares was arrested on a different charge. At this point, he knew he fucked up. He got in the interrogation room and started singing like he was Trey Songz. He told police he knew shot Octavio, He even told police put him in a cell with Berto, and he can get him to admit it. He acted like he felt bad about Octavio losing his life and wanted to help, but we all know that's bullshit, cause he only mentioned it when his back was against the wall, and he knew he can get a shorter time if he told. Tavares was then placed in the cell with Berto. Tavares told Berto that many witnesses seen the shooting, and that the shooting was on camera. This scared Berto. Berto said he was going to have the witnesses taken care of, and that when he got out he was going to flee the country. Berto even said he shot Octavio with a Glock. With this recording, and Tavares not closing his mouth like a bitch on Fig, Berto received 50 to life. In July of 2009, Drazi walked to a store. As he was leaving the store, he seen a man named George arriving in a truck. He approached Drazi and said, "Where you from?" Drazi said, "I'm from SouthSide Grape." George said, "I'm from Grape too. I'm your big homie." Drazi said, "You not my big homie, bro. I don't know you." George, who was drunk, got in Drazi's face, and Drazi pushed him and said, "Come back when you ain't drunk before we can run a fade." George replied, "I'm too old to fight you. I'm still your big homie." Drazi once again said, "You not my big homie, bro." Drazi called George a buster and walked away. Knuckles and Chucha from Varrio Grape were on 105th Street, where they seen George causing chaos on the block. He was hitting donuts and starting stuff with kids on the street. Knuckles threw a bear at his car to get him to leave. After this, George drove back towards the store. Knuckles and Chucha hopped in the car and followed George's car. Once they arrived at the store, Chucha's girlfriend said she seen Knuckles shoot and take George's life. He ran to another car and drove away. Chucha got back in the car with her and drove away as well. The store had a camera and captured the whole thing. Police recognized both Knuckles and Chucha as Varrio Grapes. Knuckles was sentenced to 50 years to life, and Chucha received 40 to life. This will conclude this episode. If you haven't already, check out my previous videos. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.